Thanks very much. Congressman, do you have something before we go?
Very briefly, because I spent more time than I intended to with Ms. Conti. I enjoyed the conversation, but I did want to come to Dr. Zandi, and it follows up on what the Congressman was just talking about on job growth and how disappointed, Dr. Zandi, is not the right word, but I guess I am skeptical about your commentary. Your testimony reads that the recent rapid drop in unemployment rate is real, resulting primarily from more jobs and not a declining labor force. And actually, you go to the extent of footnoting that by pointing out that since August, the unemployment rate has fallen to 8.3. During this period, the BLS has recorded an employment increase of 1.9 million jobs and a gain of more than 700,000 people in the labor force, and use this as evidence, I guess, to support the previous assertion that these are real job growths. Yet, sir, during the same period of time, the labor force participation rate has fallen. Last month, it went from 64% to 63.7%. The number of discouraged workers is up last month. The number of other marginally attached, U5 unemployment, is up last month. The number of U6, part-time for economic reasons, is up. The unemployment by the widest measure is up. The total number of long-term is up. I guess at a certain point, I have to wonder, how do you back up that statement, that these are real jobs because the labor force is growing? It seems to me that the labor force did go up, sir, but not as fast as it should have given the population growth. That even if your number of jobs goes up, if your participation rate in the job pool goes in the workforce goes down, that clearly we're not keeping up with population growth, and the numbers are effectively cooked. The 8.3% number that we saw last month is not a real number. How do you respond to that?
Well, a couple things. One, I caution your use of the data. The decline in the labor force participation rate in January is a statistical result. It's new population controls by census. They go back and revise the data, and they put all the revisions in January.
I did, but I think they said that was only 1/10% at the hearing we had on last week.
I think, by my calculation, the labor force participation rate's been, from August of last year through January of this year, has been essentially constant, no change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it leads to the same question, though. If your labor force participation rate is unchanged,
right,
but you're having more people in the workforce, how do you make the assertion that this is real job growth? We're not growing fast enough to give people who come out of college and out of high school and out of the vocational schools jobs.
Well, I'll say two other things. First is the increase in the labor force since August is 700,000. That's the household survey.
Right.
That's what you would expect to see in a reasonably normal, well-functioning economy, about 700K in that 5-month period, because that, on an annualized basis, results in 1.5 million labor force growth, which would be normal labor force growth in a good economy.
But not in an economy that's coming out of a recession. Okay. We should be growing faster than that on an average basis, right?
Well, you make a good point. I think there will be some point down the road when the labor market gets to a point where it's really healthy. Unemployment has fallen some more, and we start to get a bit of wage growth.
700,000 jobs over 5 months is 120,000 jobs a month, and I think the break-even number we've been told by BLS is we need 125 to 150,000 jobs a month just to keep up with the population growth.
Well, let's not confuse things. We actually created 1.9 million jobs, household jobs, in that period. 700K labor force. So 1.9 million, that's a lot of jobs. That's boom times. If we're not going to sustain it, I'm not arguing that. But if we could, that would be fantastic. But I'm not arguing that. But I do think there will, to your point, I do think there are a lot of people who've stepped out of the workforce. They're not counted as unemployed. They feel disenfranchised. They don't feel like there's job opportunity, and wage growth has been so weak that, to the Commissioner's point, they don't feel like it's worth coming back into the labor market. I've got child care, I've got gasoline prices, I've got commuting costs. But at some point when the job market does improve, unemployment comes low enough, and we get a little bit of wage growth, those folks are going to start coming in, and the labor force growth will pick up a lot more, and it's going to be harder to make progress reducing unemployment.
This will be my last question, because I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. Your testimony says that you think unemployment might be below 8% by the end of 2012. We just heard from the CBO last week. They're actually revising up their unemployment rates over that same period of time. They originally thought it'd be about 8.2%. Now they're up to 8.9%. And I'm led to believe that when you participated in the blue chip analysis last month, you yourself had suggested it might be 8.8% at the end of this year, up from 8.3% on a previous estimate that you made. That's a fairly dramatic change in a month, if I got my data right. Last month you thought it'd be 8.8 at the end of this year. Now you think it might be below 8. That's a significant change. What caused that?
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I think CBO, like all the economists, including CBO, when they do their forecast again, will be marking down their forecast for the unemployment rate. So my guess is the consensus view now.
No, they're marking it up, sir.
No, but they will mark it down. Oh. They're lagging. They're going to mark it down, given what's happened to the economy and to the unemployment rate. We're now at 8.3% unemployment. Everybody's going to be marking down their expectations for the unemployment rate. You get next month's consensus, it's going to be at year end, probably 8.2, 8.3.
What's happened in the last 30 days to change that then?
The very dramatic improvement in the job market and revisions to past data, so we have a now better sense of what has actually happened. And I think there's a growing understanding of what's going on with the labor force. I think the views with respect to the growth of the labor force are changing, so that people now think labor force growth is going to actually be slower than originally thought over the next year or two.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your leniency. I apologize to go over on the lightning round. So.
Congressman, thanks so much. Dr. Zandi, thank you. Commissioner Everson, thank you for being with us today.